Welcome to Queers Quills, the official podcast. I'm audiobook narrator Kirt Graves. Every episode, I invite an attending author or narrator to join me for a one-on-one conversation about their lives and their art, so attendees and readers from across the world can get to know them not only as professionals, but as people. Joining me today is author Joelle Lynne. Joelle Lynne is a romance author who is a total nerd at heart. She loves her romance sweet, but on the spicy side, and she's also very good at writing short bios. Welcome, Joelle. I love it. I love a brief bio.
That's also called I don't know what to say.
Yeah, it over time you get better and better at flushing that out for people. And in fact, a lot of folks, they need to take a class on how to make it shorter.
Yeah. I can definitely say I've looked at a couple of them. I'm just like, oh, this is like a whole autobiography.
But you got right to the important part. You're an author who likes romance, which is what we're here to talk about. So
exactly.
On that note, can you tell us more about your author journey? How did you end up writing books?
Well, that was kind of just a spur of the moment, a weird way to say that, a spur of the moment decision. I have always kind of been I've always wanted to be creative, but, I want to say it actually more started out in middle school. I had a group of friends. We, were really into writing fan fiction and stuff together. And we had a binder that we would pass around to each other in 6th grade. And I remember it was our big black binder is what we called it. And we wrote on the front of it, the big black binder. Mm-hmm. And we would pass it around and we would each take turns writing parts of the story. And it got to be hundreds of pages long.
Wow.
At one point, it was crazy. But, I know my other two friends that would write with me, they had big dreams of being writers. And I was just oh, this is just something for fun. And then, by profession, I'm a laboratory technician. And so, during COVID, when everything got shut down, I was still in the thick of everything, because we were the ones still doing all the testing. Yeah. And that's when I really dove into reading and trying to do my escapism. And I ended up connecting with a mom in a Facebook mom group. And she was talking to me about how she was starting to write. And I was talking to her one day and I was like, hey, I had this really great idea for a story. And she's like, well, why don't you write it down? And I was like, are you sure? So I wrote it down and I want to say it was probably maybe 2 or 3 chapters. I was like, okay, I don't even think this is any good, but can you take a look at it? So I sent it to her and she looked through it for me. First, and it was so funny because, everybody has their opinions on how things are supposed to be written. And it was immediately it was just, okay, first off, you need to change this from this to this to this. And then instantly a whole bunch of coming at me. I was like, oh my gosh. She goes, but.
Well, you did ask her for some feedback, so.
I did ask her for some feedback. But it was really good feedback. And I did appreciate it. And she goes, but the good news is I really want the rest of the story. You can't leave me here.
Nice.
You need to complete this. So, I had another friend and he was my reading buddy. We would do buddy reads together during all the lockdown stuff. And I sent it to him. He's like, oh my God, no, you definitely, you have to finish this. And if you publish this, I want a copy of this. And unfortunately, he ended up getting stationed in Germany before I finished the book. I sent him a copy. He has a copy of it. But
let's say they have books in Germany.
No, he has a copy. But
good.
But that's just kind of it was just one of those moments of I'm just going to write this down and see what happens. And
yeah. So that was the first book you wrote is also the first book you published.
Yes.
So what was that? What is the title of that book? What's it about?
That book is called Worth the Wait. And that book is about a guy that has a crush on his brother's best friend. and he's too afraid to show it. And he's had the biggest crush on him since they were kids. So they all grew up together, and he's just he kind of finds out, like, through growing up that the brother's friend is out and proud, but he's not out, and he's afraid to, like, come out and say that he's gay as well. And he finally gets to the point where the brother's friend is getting ready to leave. He's kind of missing a part of his life because his dad abandoned him and his mom when he was a child. And so he wants to go find his dad. And before he leaves, he finally confronts his feelings and tells him how he feels. And so it's the buildup of their relationship and how they go and find the dad and what happens when they find the dad. And it was supposed to be a 3-book series. It is a 2-book series. The third book never came to fruition, but there's 2 books to it. So there's the brother and the best friend, and then the second book is the brother. So
cool. Do you feel like the series came to an end where it should?
It definitely has a fulfilling ending.
Okay.
I do frequently get questions about if the third book is coming. It is a spoiler. Sorry. When the best friend goes to find his dad, he finds out he has a half brother. Mm-hmm. And so the third book was supposed to be the half brother's book.
Sure.
And, so that it was supposed to be extra. But it's just not going to happen.
It's just not there. That's
yeah,
okay.
It's just not there.
Sometimes plans change. I guess I was curious if it was something like exactly that, which is just like the muse was not talking to you, and it was like, no, actually, that story's not going to happen, and I'm not going to force it. Or if it was some external thing that you were like, I'd love to get to it someday, or if it's just like, no, that story's done.
Yeah, no, that story was done.
That story was done. How did you find your way to romance? Were you a reader before you started writing in that genre?
My kind of all reflects back to my fan fiction days, honestly. I will admit to that. It kind of all started there. You are far
from the first author I've talked to who did fan fiction. Far from the first.
I will say it started probably in fan fiction in middle school. And that's kind of where I discovered it. And, I kind of I got through high school and I fell out with it, started my adult life. I joined the military, went off to do my thing with the military, got out of the military, came home, started working my regular job and just reading through regular romance. And I want to say it was reading through Melanie Harlow's backlog one day. And it's when I found her book, Strong Enough. And I devoured that thing in a couple of hours. I was like, oh my God, this is amazing. And I started digging down the rabbit hole, what else can I find? And it was hard to find things at first. And, for me, it was just these are amazing, love stories. They're just, stories of people overcoming just insurmountable odds of people who want to push hate and horrible agendas, and people are just falling in love no matter what. And to me, it's a rewarding feeling, and I love that.
Yeah. Before I forget to say it, thank you for your service. And do you think you'll ever write a military romance?
I have thought about it.
That face tells me everything. That face tells me everything. That's a no. That's a no.
I have thought about it just because I have trouble reading them, because I feel like a lot of times people have well intentions going into them, but they get a lot of things wrong.
Oh God, it's like trying to watch a medical show with my husband. It's not worth it.
No.
I get it.
And I think, and I did that, like I said, I'm a medical laboratory tech by profession on the outside. And I wrote medical lab techs, and that was fun. And so maybe one day I'll go, okay, well, let's write some Navy sailors. Let's do it. But just so I can have that vindication of let's do it the right way.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. What inspires you to write a story? Are you a plot bunny person, or is it very methodical?
So I'm definitely somebody who follows the plot bunnies. If I get an idea, I definitely want to follow it. I'm definitely more inspired by real life. So if it's something that's more like Joe Schmo, like the guy working at the grocery store or the person working at Starbucks, like that's the stuff I want to write about. That's the stuff I want to read about. I don't mind reading about the billionaires. Like that's just kind of fun, but I'm going to relate more to the person who's just like me. And so those are the more stories you're going to get out of me.
Yeah, that makes sense. I've talked with a lot of authors for this podcast and for my other podcast, and like some are very write what you know, and others find their way to totally escapist worlds that have nothing to do with real life. I think it's whatever works for you, right?
Yeah.
And especially as somebody who's never written a book and thinks that seems hard, like whatever gets you to sit down and actually put in the time to tell a whole story, you follow that, whatever it is, until you finish a book.
Well, I definitely have discovered even just writing about places that I love has helped situations. As writing a whole book, the series that I'm in the middle of writing now started off with one of my favorite childhood locations is Ocean Shores, Washington. And it's this tiny little, when I say tiny little town, I mean, it's a tiny little town. Okay. Mm-hmm. And it's on the coast of Washington. I mean, you blink, you will drive right through this little town. There's nothing there. And I was like, you know what? It would be so cool to just base a book on this location. And before I knew it, I just had this whole like second chance romance written out about this, guy that goes, every summer to visit with his family, meets somebody there and promises that he'll come back, and then never does. And finally comes back years later, and the person he left behind is just heartbroken, and all this tragedy happened while he was gone. And it was really fun. Just, cause I got to build on places that I knew. I got to talk about, my favorite restaurants that are there, and the go-kart track, and the little ridiculous town of Hump Tulips, Washington, because that's a place that exists. And
you know that someday somebody from that tiny town is going to pick up your book and be like, what the hell? There's an entire series about this tiny town that I'm from? What? I look forward to you getting that email someday, because I'm sure it's coming.
It is kind of just that rewarding feeling of, I was able to build on something that I knew. And to me, those are the stories that come easiest to me. This is a place I know. I'm able to build around that, and I know it, and I'm able to. It's when I have to make stuff up. Like you said, there's the authors that are for the extreme escapism where they just have to create completely new worlds. And I struggle with that. I can't do it. I have to do what I know. I wrote a whole Christmas story is based off of a whole fiasco that I went through getting stuck in a Chicago airport in the middle of a snowstorm,
Been there.
It's not fun.
I was there like 2 weeks ago. So actually that airport was Detroit, but
Yeah, difference.
I'm from the Midwest. Getting snowed in at an airport is not an uncommon occurrence. But
right.
Yeah. So if somebody was coming to your work for the first time, where would you point them? What would you want them to start with?
My favorite book would have to be my book, The Date Mistake. And I always tell people to start there. And the reason I always tell people to start there is it's my favorite character building that I've ever done. I really love the characters. I'm very emotionally attached to the characters. When I talk about, like the story of, like of a barista at Starbucks, it's a story of a cafe owner and his employee. And the employee's in a very like rough situation, and he's kind of like fallen on some hard times, and he's struggling to pay his bills. He's living in a big city for the first time, and he gets his power turned off, and he has to go to his boss to ask for a raise. Well, the boss is in a special situation too, and he needs a date to his brother's wedding.
As they so often do.
They certainly do. And he ends up taking the employee with him, and it's probably the most slow burn thing I've ever written, but I really loved the way their relationship built and the way they connected to each other and found understanding in each other. And I always get lots of compliments on it. Anybody that's picked it up has absolutely fallen in love with their story. So that, to me, if I was going to recommend anybody start anywhere, start with the date mistake.
I love that. That sounds like a great place to start. And that's a standalone?
It is a standalone, yes.
Well, even better. Even better. So, all right. Now, you agreed to play a little game with me. Are you ready for that?
Right.
As ready as you're going to be. All
ready
right.
as I'm going to be.
The rules of our game are simple. I have a deck of cards, and on each card is a question. These questions aim to learn more about you. Some are biographical, some are hypothetical, some are just silly. But I will not be picking which questions you will answer. Fate is. So I will deal 3 cards every round, and you choose one. Whatever card you pick, you are agreeing to answer with a couple of caveats. So if a question comes along that you don't want to answer, you have 2 opportunities to switch things up. You can turn the tables on me one time, forcing me to answer the question, or you can discard a personal question in favor of answering a bookish question from the white deck. But then you have to answer whatever question gets dealt.
Yep.
Are you ready to play?
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. First deal. 1, 2, or 3?
2.
2. What's the cheesiest movie moment or line you can think of?
Oh. Cheesiest movie moment or line I can think of. Oh. That's a good one. Let's just trip me up right out the gate.
Are you much of a movie person?
I used to be. I'm a book person now.
Right.
Because it used to be like I used to always watch all the rom-coms and stuff with my mother. Let's see. Can't really think of anything right now.
What was your favorite rom-com? We can go from there.
Definitely, one of the movies we've watched probably over and over again is probably like The Proposal. But again, it's that comes back to the whole fake dating concept, the whole one bed concept. We love those tropes, you know. They're popular for a reason.
Yeah, Betty White, can't go wrong.
Exactly.
Those beautiful views of Alaska,
yes.
Yeah, that's a great movie. But the thing is, I don't think there's a very cheesy line in that movie, because the whole concept of the thing is like, we're not falling in love until they do. So maybe you just don't like a cheesy rom-com. You like a rom-com with a little more of an edge. Yeah. All right, second deal. Here we go. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Let's do 3.
3. Oh, what is the weirdest thing you find attractive in a person?
The weirdest thing I find attractive probably be... There is something my husband does that he does. And it's probably weird because I also complain about it. But it's kind of like endearing because it's like our thing. He leaves all the cabinets open in our kitchen.
Oh, no. Send him to jail. No. But
And so I kept behind it. But it's kind of like that thing of like, I have to go behind him and I have to close him. But it's like, it's kind of like we take care of each other. Like,
that is a very good way of thinking about that.
After 11 years, I think it's okay to say that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. All right. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
2.
2. What happened on your worst date?
What happened on my worst date? I don't think I will ever forget this. My worst date was with a guy when I was in the military. We went to a restaurant and the waitress came with the bill and he goes, I forgot my debit card at home.
Oh.
I was like, oh, okay. So I ended up having to pay for the meal. And the next day when I called him, because he said he was going to pay me back, I got you need to not call this number because my girlfriend will get upset.
Oh. Wow. The double whammy.
Yeah, so that's probably the
Okay.
worst.
That's a good one. That's a good one. All right. Card 1, 2, or 3?
We'll go 1 this time.
1. If you got stuck in an elevator and were forced to listen to only one song, what song would you pick?
I would probably pick my wedding song, which would be Madness by Muse.
All right. That's very sweet. I like that. All right. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
1.
Okay. Would you rather have unlimited sushi for life or unlimited tacos for life?
Oh, that's a main question. Good.
Well, it doesn't say you can't have the other one. You just get to have one of them unlimited.
This is true. I mean, I like both, but definitely probably the sushi because sushi is expensive.
That is exactly what I was thinking.
And if you're just going to give it to me unlimited for life, I mean, I'll take that.
Exactly. That exactly the right answer. It's more expensive. Take it. If you like both, take the more expensive one. All
exactly.
Right. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
3.
Which celebrity chef would you most like to make you dinner?
Does it count if they've already made me dinner?
Yeah, I think so. That sounds like a good story.
I've actually been at a meal from Robert Irvine.
Ooh.
If you know who that is.
I do.
Yes. And it was delicious. So.
How? Where? When?
So that is another military story. So when I was stationed in San Diego, actually, they did a staff appreciation day at the hospital I was stationed at, and he came and he made meal for the staff at the hospital. So,
wow, that's cool. So you didn't even have to pay for it?
Nope.
Man, that's good. That was good. That was worth it. I bet that was almost worth doing the whole military thing just for that.
A little bit.
There
was other not great parts, but
yeah, I believe it. So, card 1, card 2, or card 3?
We'll do 2.
2. If you were reincarnated as a famous landmark, which would it be?
Let's see. What landmark would I like to be? Oh. Let's see. What landmark? I don't know. What landmark would you like to be?
So, This is the first time this rule is coming up, because I've already answered that question. Somebody's already turned that around on me for another podcast.
Oh, God.
And so this is what happens when that happens. You get another bookish question.
Okay.
So from the top of the white deck. No. Here it is. Okay. What's your go-to book when you need comfort reading?
Well, this is going to be fun because it's the book you narrated.
No way, really?
My go-to comfort read is actually Want Me Back from Neve Wilder.
That's a good one. That's a good one. I remember reading that for the first time. I was with my husband and his classmates from like when he was getting his physical therapy doctorate. And I didn't know anybody, and we were all in a house in the middle of Minnesota. And I just like holed up in a basement and like with my iPad was like, I guess I'll start prepping this book. And then like the rest of the day I was like, leave me alone. I'm reading this.
I've embarrassed some people with that book.
Why? What's embarrassing?
Nothing's embarrassing with it. I make people read it. I had a coworker. I made him read it in the middle of the lab at work, and it's just really funny. Listening to people like the first time they're reading it through, and I just remember him getting to the part with the car and him going, "That's not coming out of those leather seats."
Oh, please! You just wipe them down. It's fine.
People tolerate me. That's good.
Anybody who hasn't read the book, you can go read the book and find out what we're talking about. All right, next round. I think we have time for 2 more. So, second to last round. Here we go. Card 1, 2, or 3.
1.
1. What's something weird that you recommend everyone tries at least once?
Something weird everybody tries at least once. Oh, natto.
What's that?
It is fermented soybeans.
Oh, okay.
So it's a Japanese delicacy. You can buy them basically at any Asian grocery store. They're in the frozen section. Keep them frozen. You do not want to thaw these things before you eat them. You will regret your life decisions.
Okay.
But a lot of times what they'll do is they put them on top of rice and they eat it with rice. Probably the most disgusting thing I've ever eaten in my entire life. But you can say you've done it.
Okay. I like that. Yeah. You got to at least try.
Exactly.
All right. Last round. Card 1, card 2, or card 3?
Card 1.
Card 1. What things do you do every day that you wish could be automated?
My job.
To be clear, though, you still want to be there making money. You just
clear,
you just want to supervise as the robots do the stuff.
Correct. I mean,
Right.
there's definitely like an art. So like, particularly like I work in microbiology. I mean, you want human eyes looking at bacteria. You don't want a robot looking at that stuff. But
Yeah,
it would be
sure.
nice to have things be a little bit more easier. And a lot of it is automated now. I will say that. Like we identify bacteria now by putting it on a slide. It goes inside of a machine. It shoots lasers at it and says, "This is what bacteria it is." But
Yeah. Well, and it's important work as somebody who just had a strep test today. We so appreciate the work that you guys do, keeping us healthy. So, and especially during COVID-19, like that had to be just awful.
it was stressful, but we got through it. It was a lot of work. It kept us busy, that's for sure.
Good. Well, thank you for that work as well. And thank you for coming on the podcast. I so appreciate it. It was lovely getting to meet you, and I look forward to seeing you in Portland.
I look forward to meeting you.
Awesome. So, thank you, listeners, for joining us for Queers and Quills, the official podcast. If you're already signed up to attend Queers and Quills, make sure to say hello to me and to Joelle at the Oregon Convention Center in May. If you're not, follow Queers and Quills on Instagram to follow along with all the fun this year and get updates about ticket availability in the future. Until next time, I'm Kirt Graves, and I hope you're having a very gay day. Queers and Quills, the official podcast, is produced and hosted by Kirt Graves, in coordination with Mahogany Mail and Marley Valentine. All copyrighted material is shared with permission. Music and sound effects are licensed through Storyblocks Audio. All opinions shared are those of the individuals and do not reflect the positions or policies of any company or organization with which they happen to be associated.